What do you think
Sorry?
about Tyson fighting Roy Jones?
You know, both of them are past their age, so that's a good point there. I don't know how big Roy Jones is, but Roy Jones was a smaller fighter, you know, and so you have. I don't believe your power develops as you get older. You know, there's a certain level where you can grow. So if you're like, you know, 165 and you move up to 200, you were originally at 165 because you were able to lose that weight and you could give the power that you had at 165. These guys who are heavyweights are big dudes and they can punch for a reason. So my fear is yes. If it was a normal fight, I would say yes. In that, I think Mike Tyson could kill him if he was really all his faculties and everything together. But I don't think all his faculties are there, bro. I saw a fight with Roy Jones a couple of years ago, and he was still fighting, or he was trying to make a comeback, and he looked so slow. And I'm like, this is not the Roy Jones who used to come in and used to have the ring generalship like Terrence Crawford and just ran that ring. You know, no one could touch him and stuff like that because you know he never liked to get hit. He's like, yo, I'm only hitting people, not the other way around. But you know, I personally don't think anybody should be fighting over the age of 30, 35 at the max. 40 is like pushing it. But these guys are older than that, right? How old is Roy Jones?
He's
I mean,
younger
he's
than
young.
Tyson.
He's younger than Tyson, right?
In fighting years, he's really old.
He's fought a long time. I know. Let me
How,
check out. Let me
how
check.
with Roy is that Roy's only defense was speed.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That's the thing, when people clinched against him, that's when he was in trouble. You see him guarding, like who's that guy? Mayweather. When he guards himself, he doesn't take that much damage, but Roy takes a lot of damage when he gets in the clinch, when he blocks. None of that stuff. He doesn't. He never developed at least a jab or something to keep people away.
Right. You're right. 100% right about that. And you're right. The speed was the thing that made him good. The speed. You know, I mean, he'd do a little clutch like this, but it wasn't a consistent thing from what I remember. You know, but you know, he was never one of my favorite fighters to begin with. I saw him. I'm like, he's
Roy?
not. No, he wasn't. He wasn't one of my favorite fighters. I'm not like those guys who are like, oh, I always want to see the guys go in and just like clash all the time. I want to see skill. He had skill, but just one of those fighters that I just never excited. Roy Jones Jr.'s fighting. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to see that. You know, I'd go to pay-per-view for some other fighters. You know, I would go to parties or events and stuff like that. You know, and check those things out. But I wouldn't, for his fights, you know, unless he had a very decent opponent, I really wasn't going to watch it. You know, so
I
like I
think the
said,
best. Hmm?
sorry.
I think the best thing is that if Tyson loses, he'll never come back.
What do you mean he can't come back now? I don't think he can. Right now, what Tyson
I'm
is
saying if he
was
wins, which he's expected to, people start thinking of other fights, right?
all right, but
In
this
the
is what I'm trying to.
Hmm?
Sorry, say what you finish. What you're gonna say.
Like I said, once he starts thinking of other fights, he's gonna get caught in that Hollywood thing. It's just gonna be just like Frank Miller. He can get up on drugs again, the whole thing. There's no way to escape it. If
Yo,
you
it's like
it'll be just like Frank
you're
Miller.
you're bad, yo. You're bad. Look,
No.
Tyson.
Hmm?
Tyson is 54 years old. Okay, I think Roy Jones Jr. has got to be hitting something close to that. He's got to be. Hold on, I think he's like 60. He was born in 66. So what's the math on that? What he's got to be. Roy Jones Jr. is. I don't know. What's 66 to now? 66 to 2020. You know, he's got to be over 50. I think he's got to be like 50, 52, 52, 51, right? Yeah,
Nope.
51 years old. So you have two 50-year-olds fighting one another. You know, look, when George Foreman first came out fighting, I thought it was the biggest gimmick in the world. When what's his name, Tony, Tony, he came out fighting again. I thought so, and you know what? They were older. I think they were in their 40s, and they were able to take more shots and hits, and they had more skill. They had more generalship because they've been around a long time. But you know, someone is I don't want to say as unstable as Tyson. I don't know that he has the wherewithal to go through with this whole thing. I mean, I never forget the whole thing when he bit Evander Holyfield's ear. I mean, right then he should have been banned from boxing for life. I mean, that's just like ridiculous.
So I think,
But sorry.
Holyfield was on steroids, though.
Okay, you want to go there? You really want to go
Gotta
there?
go there.
You want to go there? Yo, everybody was on steroids then. Everybody was taking some type of juice.
No,
So don't
Holyfield, Tyson couldn't even. He was backing down Tyson.
look. I'm not going to deny what you're saying. Holyfield was like, what he was a what was he? He was a light heavyweight, you know. And he came up, and when he came up to Tyson, he just got bigger. He just blew up like what the fudge. And you know he was always trained, so you see all these cuts, and you're like, this guy doesn't look for real. But a lot of dudes was doing it. It's not. We can't go back in time and say, well, these guys, you know, they weren't doing. They were all natural. They were doing all kinds of things back then.
I'm just saying that. I'm saying they said Tyson has done it too, but I'm saying that Holyfield did it to such the fact that he couldn't even feel blows. He could hit Tyson. He hit Tyson with what, like an underhand left, and Tyson slid to the other side of the ring. So it's just like, what fight is this? We've never seen that happen to Tyson. You know how long Buster Douglas had to chop to get to that knockout? He had to chop that tree for the longest time.
But you're talking about two completely different Tysons. Tyson, after the loss of the Buster Douglas, was never really the same.
After going to what's the name? After going to
So it's by the time he fought Evander Holyfield, you know, he was not the same. He was vulnerable. He could lose. He wasn't as disciplined as he used to be under Customato. I just don't. For me, it was never that. It's like, but he was definitely above a lot of. If he put his mind to it and put the training into it, he could have beaten almost anyone. Now you're right about the whole thing with
Listen.
You're right about the whole thing about Tyson. I mean, Holyfield being, you know, yeah, he was a little juiced up. I'm not going to say he wasn't. But one of the things that got me, and I think Tyson gave him like a hit to the head one time, and it's like a couple of times, and he just like this. He came back, and you're like, whoa. I mean, you saw Tyson swing for the trees. Whoa! And he went, and he came back. It's like, yo, I said, what type of face is that? What did he put in there? You know? So it was, it's interesting. And then you look back when he was a light heavyweight, and you can see he moved much faster. He was more fluid. So whatever he was doing, I thought to gain the strength necessary was definitely juicing. But he wasn't only unique one. There were a lot of other people doing it. And this is where
I'm saying for where he was at in his career, what he did, in comparison to the fight he had before Tyson, he was totally yoked, impenetrable. And then you see Tyson, I think in the second fight, Tyson had developed at least a way to duck. You saw him move away, and I was like, oh, okay. But then the headbutt already injured him, and it was like, I'm already open. This fight's going to be over with a couple of jabs.
Right.
And he hit me with another headbutt. It opened me up like that, bang, then another bang, bang, push him aside, bang, like it would have been the same thing. But
wait, but you're trying to say that what's his name was getting away with that he was doing it, getting away with it, right? And it wasn't that. The ref wasn't calling it. You know what I'm trying to say? So let's put it in, because you know when fighters fight, there's a lot of dirty business going on. You know, people are sneaking punches where they shouldn't, below the belt, on the kidney, all kinds of stuff.
Remember the Pernell Whitaker and Chavez?
Oh, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I do remember. That was a classic, though.
If you remember, Pernell was tying him up, and he was twisting him at the same time. And the ref said, stop doing it. He kept taking every trick he had, and Pernell still was getting him. And that's the thing. You can just take that away from the person, and you can still have a fight. Just say to him, hey, you know, keep your head up. You know, this is like, you know, like.
What do you expect him to do? He had to clutch him in that fight, bro. It was Chavez in his prime. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, but then he tried. He did that, but then he took that away from him, and he still won.
Yeah, I know.
He beat the hell out of him.
But that was a battle, bro. That was a battle. Man, whatever happened to Pernell Whitaker?
He died.
He died. Oh man. Wow, I didn't even realize that. Dude, it's like, but getting back to the whole thing with these, seniors fighting. You know, I just don't think it's real. It should be done. I just don't think it's practical. I don't think it's well. You know, let's say for example, yeah, they're evenly matched and they throw. You know, they throw and they're moving slower, and because they're older, they can. Bro, you're still taking hits, concussions to the head on a regular basis. You know, even if it's like half the speed you were doing before, your body at 50 years old cannot take what you used to take when you were in your 20s or your 30s. You know, what 30s is considered the prime age for boxers, right? If you're 30, that's roughly the prime age right there. But what happens to get there? Most boxers are starting in their teens. You know, there's very few who are coming in their 20s because your body has to get disciplined to handle those hits and to continue going forward, and then learning the skills, the what do you call that? The body skills that you automatically, but the reflexes to just, you know, do certain things. I've seen many fights, and you go into it and you say, oh, wow, you know, why did he move to the right and move to the left? You know, didn't see that, you know, and you realize, you know what, there's a lot more going on. You know, even when these guys are following the exact same game plan, you know, they're doing certain things that, and I always say the plan, when the fight starts, the plan goes out the window sometimes, but there's still the physical training that goes on that allows you to do certain things. Even the guys who lose, you just can't tell. But it boggles the mind why it isn't banned, and it goes back to it boggles the mind.
Yeah. I'm going to agree, and I also say, I'd also say that you have to. I'd also say the problem is that no matter who wins, the boxing loses because everyone's already sizing them up. Shannon Briggs is upset that Tyson, like, why would Tyson fight Shannon Briggs when Shannon Briggs is still fighting? Like, that's just asking to get beat down.
Wait. Shannon Briggs is still fighting?
Yeah, he's still fighting.
This dude's got to be like in his 40s too.
When he got beat up by the Klitschko guy, they gave him like a couple weeks before the fight. And they said, right, you take it now or not. And, you know, he got beat down. But that's the thing. He's still out there fighting. And he'd be more in shape to fight than Tyson. So he's like, oh, you got one fight? Let's do this. He taunt Tyson. That's what he's trying to do. He's like, oh, you should have fought him. It's like, no, it's exhibition. They know that there's no money in it right now.
Oh, there's money in it. Look at the YouTube guy. Those two YouTube guys who fought. One from England and one from the U.S. They made millions.
I'm saying
millions,
they have names right now. They're trying to still bring in.
Look, Shannon Briggs is 49 years old. 49.
But, you know but him fighting Tyson, that's like, I'm a young man.
He came back in 2014. I don't know, man. That's.
But I'm saying, think about it, him fighting Tyson. Or him fighting Roy Jones. Like, he'd probably murder those guys.
He probably would.
He'd probably get hit 3 million times. And by the 5th round, if he doesn't get knocked out, they're going to be so tired that all he has to do is step to them, and they probably wouldn't be able to move out the way. So
how many rounds? There's no way this is 10 rounds or 12 rounds. How many rounds is this fight that they're talking about? 5? 3?
Roy isn't going to stay. We saw his first heavyweight fight, right? Yeah. He's not going to try to stay in around, and he's going to be more like he was very cautionary when he did his first thing, so he could try to win on points. So he'd be like this, throw punch, and they gave him the win. It was just like that wasn't a real heavyweight fight. Like a heavyweight fight is throwing bombs. You can box, you can do stuff, but then there's some mixing it up, and that's the thing that even if you're good or bad. That's what Wilder does. You're going to mix it up, and if you can survive some of the haymakers, that makes a heavyweight fight. You can't be Sugar Ray Leonard all the time to be able to pick and pop, that sort of thing.
Well, that's why people love the heavyweight, because unlike all the other divisions, you really need some type of skill. Heavyweights, if you have a bomb on you, and you can knock out a 200-plus, you can do it. So you can come in there. You know, huh?
Lennox Lewis Rockman, that Rockman guy. Remember him? He got him. What's the name? The mouthpiece was almost out of Lennox Lewis' mouth, and it's like boom, now the mouth there. And then what's the name? All cocky, not realizing that Lennox got a ton of skills, and then he comes in there, gives the whoopoo, like the setup punch, and then the knockout. That was beautiful. But then he when he fought the Klitschko guy, he was kind of like, oh, I can't do this no more. I'm gonna win
No,
this.
he fought Klitschko, and it was like this was much harder than I thought. And
Yeah.
I don't even know if he won that fight. I think he lost that fight, and the judges just gave it to him because
Yeah.
he's the champ. You know, because I saw it and I was like, oh gosh. I mean, I saw it on TV. I didn't see it live, but I was like, oh gosh, come on. I thought Klitschko was winning it, and I think even the scorecards of the I think it was HBO, they were saying, yeah, we see Klitschko was doing it, but he was a champ. And I think after that, he's like, you know what? I'm wrapping it up because this stuff is getting way too hard. And it's like the motivation. I was watching this thing with Usain Bolt. You know, yeah, you can be the best player, the best runner in the world, got gold medals and stuff. But there comes a time where you're like, do I have to put myself through all this stuff anymore? I'm rich. I'm famous. You know, I'm trying to say I'm getting older. And this is where I go back to where these old dudes, these seniors need to stop. It's a different thing if you're saying you want to play senior golf at 50 or 60. You know, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But to play where you in a sport where concussion is what people want to see is not right. You know, and I think it's who's going to license it. The Nevada Athletic Commission does this. It's nearly criminal. If something happens to one of those guys, you need to get all those guys on the commission and put them in jail. You know, don't even have a trial. It's all there for everybody to see.
Tyson isn't punchy yet. He still talks the same way he always talked, right? Roy Jones is getting punchy. Them last fights, and that's the thing. I'm saying if Shannon Briggs is going after him, Bernard Hopkins, who they already talked about them fighting, is gunning for Roy.
Well, look, like I said, there's money on the table. Tyson I could definitely see a couple $1 million fight there. You know, people are going to sign just to see the novelty of Tyson fighting something. Roy Jones Jr. does not have the name of Tyson, but Tyson coming back to fighting, you're going to see millions being put there, whether on pay-per-view, even if by then the corona stuff happens and we can the vaccine or whatever it dies out and people go to the stands. You know, there's going to be millions of dollars there, and he's the biggest thing. I mean, he'll be sucking the oxygen out of regular boxing because. You know, I've been watching ESPN has been having a whole series of fights, and some other stations I've been watching, the British have been having a whole bunch of fights. You know, but they're not basic the title fights, the big ones you want to see because everybody wants to make the money. And Tyson will come in and he's just going to I'm not saying he's going to make like 100 million or 10 million, you know, but if he makes a couple million, that's like in the 90% in the 10% of all fights for the year, you know.
Yeah.
And so but still, you know, I understand why you want to do it. You want money, but you know, your long-term health is what I always say. What's the point of making all this money if you gotta, you know, have somebody wipe the spittle on your mouth, right? What's the point of having this whole thing if you could die? Again, your body can't. And then he hasn't been boxing for years.
Well,
you know?
I would just add that Muhammad Ali did the same thing. They showed him after he took some water pills that it looked like he was in shape. And the next thing you know, they show him at the bag. Say, oh, look at the speed. Oh, he's going to kill such and such. And it's like, Tyson's been away longer than even though Roy's had some bad showings. The problem with the success of it for Tyson would be Hollywood tricking him into making money, this, that, and the other. And obviously this is like, you know, paying back whatever debt he owes. Because they're like, obviously he owes a lot of money. They ultimately they stacked the bank against him. He was not managing his money. He was doing the, you know, lavish lifestyle stuff. And now he is where he is. And he did what fighters do. You go around, you talk, you know, and he did everything you can. But it's like, at some point they got to write off that debt and just say, live your life, move on. Because they're still
this dude has had ample opportunity to write off that debt, but he keeps, the way he lives is just, I wouldn't say, you know, he's lived this way for so long, and of course he's brought his lifestyle down as years have gone by because of cost. But it's been such a big lifestyle for such a long time. It's hard, and the debt is. This is the only way I can see. You're right, him getting rid of it. But it's. I keep wanting to say. There's one thing I wanted to say, and I keep forgetting it.
What?
I keep saying, but you know. Tyson looks, you know, you asked me in the beginning of this, do I know about the fight? And I said, nah, but I do. I remember I've been watching Tyson, and in the interview that he had, I think it was just a small clip, and he looked good in the match. You saw him hitting the bag, and I'm like, with the punch and power, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
You know, hitting a bag hard for 15 seconds doesn't mean a damn thing. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
You got to have a sparring session for. Is he doing sparring sessions 5 rounds? I cannot believe this will be a 10-round fight or possibly a 7. It has to be like those.
It's 8 rounds. It's 8 rounds.
Oh my God, 8 rounds is ridiculous. They need to bring it down to like 5. Like, you know, when you go to a boxing match and the new guys are starting off, they start off for like 3 rounds and they start moving them up. They need to do something like that because 8 rounds.
It would be great. It would be great to stay that way, and then they could like, I don't know, they could dance more than fight rather than, because I mean ultimately it's either kill each other.
Oh no, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be kill each other. Roy Jones Jr. is going to fight defensively. He doesn't want to get hit by Tyson, or he doesn't want to get hit hard by Tyson. And unless Tyson shows like serious weakness, he won't be going in for no major things. He'll be he's trying to win on points. He's going to win on points, keep Tyson away, right? Move around the ring, make Tyson see if Tyson can move, and then that's it. At the end of the thing, he's going to win like that. Tyson is going to be, you know, he doesn't want this to go on for long. He's going to have to try to go for a punch, a good punch, you know. And Roy Jones Jr. this time as a heavyweight may not be fast enough to escape that. But the question is, does Tyson have the strength? Oh, you totally disagree. All right.
No, I disagree. I'm scared for either or. I'm scared for Roy getting hit. I'm scared for Tyson, Tyson winning, and then people just sizing. Well, I'm scared if Roy survives, and it's no good. There's no good scenario. It's a no-win scenario.
Wait. You're scared he wins. I'm scared the opposite. I'm scared he loses and breaks down in the middle of the fight or whatever.
Tyson?
Yeah, and
But he'll just fight before. Remember, he broke down in the last fight he had.
Yeah,
he was on the floor. He wouldn't get up, and he said, "I'm embarrassing the sport. I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He can just forget it. You know, look, he's there to get a couple. He probably is going to get a guaranteed $1 million most likely, and that may be it. Take the hit and call it a day. I mean, it's embarrassing to have Roy Jones Jr. What was he? A welterweight? No, he wasn't a welterweight. I think he was higher than that. But have this guy who got up and came and fight him. Look, again,
that's what Camacho did. Camacho just sized up old fighters and made them look like they were nothing. He made the Sugar Ray Leonard, Camacho isn't a power puncher, and he was hitting Ray Leonard with shots that you see his head buckle. It's like, oh yeah, Terry Norris could make Ray Leonard's head buckle. But we didn't even see his head buckling when he was fighting Hagler. This is like, come on.
I remember listening to a fight. I don't know who it was who had retired. Was it Hagler? I'm not sure. No, it wasn't Hagler. Hagler doesn't talk. It was it I can't remember the name of the guy. But he said, the thing is, when you've been boxing, like you said, you've been boxing since you were a teenager. So your body is you're so used to going to the ring. You're so used to the event. You're so used to doing this thing again and again and again. That if you don't do it, you don't feel as complete. You don't feel yourself again once you stop or once you retire. And that you want to get back into the ring. And you see the fighters out there, you think, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I'm still good. But that's the illusion, my friend. The illusion that you can do the same thing. I'm not 20 anymore. Yeah. I'm not 25 anymore. And I can tell you right now that, bro, I know I can't possibly do the things and take the hits that I used to when I was younger. I remember playing football with some guys. I got knocked out, concussion, knocked out, bam, caught the ball though, but got knocked out. And I was like, whoa, this is not a good thing. You know what I'm trying to say? This is not a good thing. And this was just, people were just playing around in the park. And I'm like, wow, and this was in my 20s. And I'm like, yo, if this is happening to me now, imagine if I tried doing that same thing if I was 50 years old or 55 years old. And now the same guy knocks me down or barrels through me one more time. First of all, I know I wouldn't have caught that ball. I would have been a wrap, But, I think it would have been more than just dust it off, shake off that headache and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It would have been like, I think we need to call an ambulance. So, or it's probably cheaper to call an Uber to go to the hospital nowadays. Because ambulances are going to give you a heavy charge,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's madness. That's all I gotta say.
I just worry about people sizing them up like their hamburger and being like, I want Roy's next fight. Roy, I think now you're ready to fight Bernard Hopkins, who's got nothing to lose now. It's just like, I know how to beat Roy. I can just get in there. Roy don't have any real defense anymore because he don't got no speed. when we fought the first time, I was able to stay in the fight even though I lost. And then I think if you look at what the first Hopkins Roy, Roy Jones does win, but it's close. It's really close, and it's one of those things where you see the second one, it looks like the same fight, but at the same time, you feel that Roy's no, you feel that Hopkins is the one who's more dominant in the fight, but it looks almost the same.
It is. He
Yeah.
was more dominant. You know, definitely.
So one of the things that's the thing I gotta look at. It's like this thing is side. We've seen the old fighters. The only one that got away with it outside of looking at Muhammad Ali, because that's way different. But you look at who's that guy? You look at
Foreman.
Foreman. Look at Foreman. But Foreman, that's the thing. If you watch the modern martial arts, he explains the trick was when he fought Ali. Ali was like, all right, I touched him a little. I'm just gonna try to lay around and get him to tire out. Then I'll hit him with the power. This same thing where the other one he's fighting was a Michael Moorer. He's like, I'm gonna be like I'm done because I've had the other fights. I look like I've done before. I'm gonna hang around. And then next thing you know, when Moore's kind of out of it, he just started bombs. And then next you know he loses to Holyfield. He loses to other fighters. But it's like the thing was the game plan was what it needed to be, and he showed that he's not a quitter. He had some hard times, but he learned, and he wasn't able to use the tricks he had. Because ultimately, as a big man, he'd just be like, "I'm gonna turn you around, bang," like what he used to do to freaking Frazier. Because Frazier's a great fighter, and he's like, "No, I'm not accepting that, bang, bang," or even Ken Norton. Like he did these guys that was
Legends.
That.
It's with Foreman. I was also scared about him dying in fights, and I think that's also something people go out to see. I think Foreman, when I first started seeing, I was like, but he looked as though he could take a frigging punch, which he did, And when he came out, you thought, oh, this guy. I mean, prior to that, everybody was like, oh, he's a beast. He doesn't really think. But you come to find out, this guy uses this as a whole gimmick. He gets the title, he gets this gimmick not gimmick, and it worked. I'm saying he gets the title, and then on advertising, he's doing a George Foreman grill, he's endorsing certain things, and and then he starts doing commentary on some fights, and you're like, this guy was crazy like a fox, And I think everybody's
even before that, they have one where they have all these fighters, everyone else is punchy except Foreman, and Foreman is like, what do you have to say about the Muhammad Ali fight? And he said it in the nicest way. So I went in there, and they basically saying he was totally embarrassed. He didn't try to say that the count was wrong. He just took it all on the chin. And he's like, he's ingratiating himself to the world again. He's trying to make sure that that people can love him, which they did. So I guess we should wrap it up because we got to do some other shows now. So.
Yeah. Well, it was a great topic.
Yeah.
So,
all right, spin the rack.
Out.
All right.
Are you going to watch the fight?
If some.